Your badge number 2?
1973.
All right, bet. Hold on. 1973. What's your name? What's your name?
When I walk back by, you can read it.
All right, say that then. What'd you say yours was?
I already said it was, sir.
Can you repeat yourself, please, sir?
Absolutely, sir. 2043.
2042?
The chilling discovery on the morning of January 29, 2024, sent a wave of disbelief and unimaginable silence through Fort Wayne, Indiana, and beyond. The lifeless bodies of 2 young individuals, each brimming with potential and promise, were found inside a vehicle parked on Romey Avenue. The victims were quickly identified as Adijah Armani Oki, a vibrant 17-year-old senior at Snyder High School known for her burgeoning career as a fashion model, and Jeremiah Bailey, an 18-year-old former football player who had relocated from LaGrange, Georgia, and was exploring his passion for music. Adijah was a radiant presence, her photographs capturing a striking beauty that hinted at a confident and ambitious spirit. She was on the cusp of graduation, a milestone that held the promise of new adventures and the realization of her dreams in the fashion world. Jeremiah, though having navigated some challenges with the law in the past, possessed a raw talent and was carving out a space for himself in the local music scene. His athletic background spoke to discipline and drive, qualities that perhaps were now being channeled into his artistic pursuits. The stark reality of their deaths, discovered in such a brutal manner, immediately cast a pall over the community. The news spread rapidly through social media and local news outlets, the initial reports painting a grim picture of a double homicide. The juxtaposition of their youth and the violent nature of their end left many grappling with a profound sense of loss and the unsettling intrusion of violence into the familiar landscape of their city. The promising futures that lay ahead for Adijah and Jeremiah were extinguished in an instant, leaving behind grieving families, shocked friends, and a community demanding answers and justice for these young lives tragically cut short. The quiet suburban street where their bodies were found became an immediate focal point, a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the devastating consequences of violence. The initial hours following the discovery were marked by a flurry of activity as the Fort Wayne Police Department descended upon Romey Avenue. The quiet residential street, typically a scene of everyday life, was transformed into a crime scene, cordoned off with yellow tape that snaked around the area, a stark visual representation of the tragedy that had unfolded. Detectives and forensic teams meticulously combed the scene, their focused movements a silent testament to the gravity of their task. Every detail, no matter how small, held the potential to unlock the mystery surrounding the deaths of Adijah and Jeremiah. The vehicle in which the young victims were found became the center of intense scrutiny. Investigators carefully documented its position, the state of the interior, and any potential evidence that might shed light on the moments leading up to the shootings. Spent shell casings, fingerprints, and any other trace evidence were collected and bagged, each item a potential piece of the puzzle. The surrounding area was canvassed for witnesses. Neighbors questioned about anything unusual they might have seen or heard in the hours leading up to the discovery. The hope was that a seemingly insignificant observation could provide a crucial lead in the nascent investigation. As the sun rose higher, casting a stark light on the scene, the somber reality of the situation began to sink in for those who lived nearby. The usual sounds of morning, children preparing for school, cars heading to work, were muted, replaced by the hushed tones of law enforcement and the distant whir of police vehicles. A sense of unease permeated the air, a stark reminder that even in the most familiar of settings, tragedy could strike without warning. The initial phase of the investigation was a race against time, a meticulous effort to gather every possible clue that could point towards the perpetrator or perpetrators and begin to unravel the circumstances that led to the untimely deaths of 2 young people on the cusp of their futures. The timeline leading up to the tragic discovery on Romey Avenue began to coalesce as investigators pieced together the last known movements of Adijah and Jeremiah. While the exact sequence of events remained shrouded in the immediate aftermath, certain details started to emerge, painting a clearer, albeit still incomplete, picture of their final hours. It was established that Adijah and Jeremiah were together in the vehicle where their bodies were later found. The nature of their meeting and the reasons for their presence at that specific location became central questions for the detectives. Were they meeting someone? Had they arrived there together? Had they been there for a long time? These were the crucial threads investigators sought to untangle. The violence itself was stark and undeniable. Both Adijah and Jeremiah had been fatally shot. The forensic evidence collected from the scene would later provide crucial details about the type of weapon used and the number of shots fired, offering insights into the nature of the attack. Was it a targeted assassination, or did it stem from a different kind of encounter? The brutality of the act underscored the urgency of identifying the perpetrator and understanding the motive behind such a violent crime. As the investigation progressed, law enforcement began to scrutinize communication records, including phone calls and social media interactions, to understand who Adijah and Jeremiah had been in contact with prior to their deaths. This digital footprint often holds vital clues in modern investigations, revealing potential connections, conflicts, or planned meetings. The investigators worked to reconstruct their activities in the hours leading up to the discovery, hoping to identify any individuals who might have had a motive or opportunity to commit the crime. The initial assessment of the crime scene suggested a targeted act of violence, leaving investigators to explore the relationships and interactions of the young victims in the days and weeks preceding their tragic end. The investigation into the murders of Adijah Armani Oki and Jeremiah Bailey quickly intensified, becoming a multi-pronged effort that leveraged both traditional detective work and modern forensic techniques. A crucial breakthrough came through the meticulous review of surveillance footage from businesses and residences in the vicinity of Romey Avenue. These recordings, like silent witnesses, began to offer glimpses into the events that transpired. Investigators painstakingly analyzed hours of footage, searching for any sign of the victim's vehicle, other cars or individuals in the area, and any unusual activity that might have occurred around the estimated time of the crime. Witness testimony also played a significant role in the early stages of the investigation. Detectives canvassed the neighborhood extensively, speaking with residents who might have heard or seen anything out of the ordinary. Even seemingly insignificant details reported by neighbors, a vehicle speeding away, an argument, or unfamiliar individuals in the area, were carefully documented and cross-referenced with other emerging evidence. The digital lives of Adijah and Jeremiah also came under scrutiny. Investigators obtained warrants to examine their cell phone records, social media activity, and any other digital communication. This provided a timeline of their interactions, potential contacts, and any possible conflicts or threats they might have encountered. These digital breadcrumbs often reveal crucial connections and motives that might not be apparent through traditional investigative methods. As these various strands of evidence began to converge,
Y'all harassing.
I get it.
I don't want no problems. I don't want no
I get it
problems.
that you have to run your mouth because you're on social media and you have to.
I'm not. I'm just saying. I'm not tough, bro. I'm not tough. I'm not shaking for what? I don't got on me. Shaking for what? What I'm shaking for? What am I shaking for? I don't got nothing on me. I don't have no reason to shake. Scared of what?
Because when you give
Scared of
respect,
what?
you earn respect, right?
Bro, y'all don't respect me.
Well, you haven't seen disrespect. Would you like to be disrespected?
No, sir. I don't want no
Because I think
problems.
everything has been pleased. And
No, sir, I don't want no
everything
problems.
That's respectful.
No, sir. I don't want no
Respect's
problems.
earned.
No, sir. I don't want no
Once
problems.
you have a seat back in the car.
the names of potential suspects started to surface. The information gleaned from surveillance footage, witness accounts, and digital communication began to paint a picture, however fragmented, of the circumstances surrounding the murders. The investigators understood that solving this case required patience, meticulous attention to detail, and the ability to connect seemingly disparate pieces of information into a coherent narrative that would ultimately lead to the identification and apprehension of those responsible. The initial phase of the investigation laid the groundwork for the crucial arrests that would soon follow. The relentless efforts of the Fort Wayne Police Department began to yield significant results as the evidence gathered from surveillance footage, witness testimonies, and digital records started to coalesce, pointing towards specific individuals. The investigation zeroed in on two primary suspects, Dean White, a 21-year-old, and Urani Washington, a 17-year-old who was already in custody on unrelated charges stemming from another shooting incident. Dean White was apprehended and subsequently charged with the murders of Adijah Armani Oki and Jeremiah Bailey, along with firearm-related offenses. The evidence presented against him, though not immediately fully disclosed to the public, was compelling enough for the authorities to bring formal charges. His arrest marked a significant step forward in the pursuit of justice for the young victims and offered a sense of relief, albeit a somber one, to the grieving community. The involvement of Urani Washington added another layer of complexity to the case. While already in custody for a separate shooting, the investigation revealed communication between him and Jeremiah Bailey in the period leading up to the homicides. This connection raised questions about his potential role in the events of January 29. Investigators worked diligently to unravel the nature of their communication and determine if Washington had any direct involvement in the deaths of Adijah and Jeremiah. The arrests of White and Washington initiated the legal proceedings, a process that promised to be lengthy and emotionally charged. The initial court appearances were closely watched by the media and the public, all eager for more information about the motives and circumstances surrounding the tragic double homicide. As the case moved through the legal system, the focus shifted to the prosecution's efforts to build a solid case against the accused, presenting the evidence gathered during the investigation to ultimately seek justice for Adijah and Jeremiah. The legal proceedings represented the next crucial phase in this tragic saga, a pathway towards accountability and closure for the families and the community deeply affected by this senseless act of violence. The news of Adijah and Jeremiah's murders sent shockwaves far beyond their immediate families and friends, deeply impacting the Fort Wayne community and even reaching back to Jeremiah's home in LaGrange, Georgia. The senseless loss of two young lives, each on the cusp of adulthood and brimming with potential, ignited a collective sense of grief and outrage. At Snyder High School, where Adijah was a senior, the atmosphere was heavy with sorrow. Students, teachers, and staff grappled with the sudden absence of a vibrant classmate known for her bright smile and aspirations in the fashion world. Grief counselors were made available to provide support and guidance to those struggling to process the tragedy. The school became a focal point for mourning, a place where Adijah's friends and classmates could come together to share their memories and find solace in unity. The wider Fort Wayne community rallied to support the grieving families. Vigils and memorial gatherings were organized, providing spaces for people to express their sorrow, share their condolences, and remember Adijah and Jeremiah. The pain was palpable at these events, a shared burden of loss for two young individuals whose lives were tragically cut short. One particularly poignant display of community mourning was the balloon release ceremony held in Adijah's honor. Friends, family, and community members gathered, each holding a balloon that symbolized her vibrant spirit. As the balloons ascended into the sky, it was a visual representation of their collective grief and a symbolic farewell to a life full of promise. The tragedy also highlighted the pervasive issue of youth violence and its devastating impact on communities. Many expressed a desire for change, for a future where young people could pursue their dreams without the threat of such senseless acts. The community's response was not just one of mourning, but also a call for reflection and action to address the underlying issues that contribute to such violence. The memories of Adijah and Jeremiah served as a stark reminder of the preciousness of life and the urgent need for a safer environment for all young people.
Recently unsealed court documents say White was identified as the shooter by a witness, and that surveillance video showed two suspects back their car into an alley, sneak up behind the victim's car, and fire several gunshots at Oki and Bailey before running away. The second suspect was not identified in those court records. Now, the warrant for White's arrest was issued in February, with the records sealed.
The tragic story of Adijah Armani Oki and Jeremiah Bailey serves as a stark and heartbreaking reminder of the devastating impact of violence, particularly when it steals the lives of young people on the brink of their futures. Adijah, the bright and ambitious high school senior with dreams of the fashion world, and Jeremiah, the former athlete exploring his musical talents, became symbols of potential extinguished too soon. Their deaths sent ripples of grief and shock through their communities, leaving behind a void that can never truly be filled. The swift action of the Fort Wayne Police Department in identifying and apprehending suspects offered a measure of justice, a step towards holding those responsible accountable for their actions. However, the legal proceedings that followed served as a stark reminder of the complexities and the often lengthy path towards closure in such tragic cases. Beyond the legal ramifications, The outpouring of grief and the collective mourning of the Fort Wayne community underscored the profound impact these young lives had. The vigils, the memorial gatherings, and the simple acts of remembrance demonstrated the shared sorrow and the desire to honor Adijah and Jeremiah's memories. Their stories became a poignant call for reflection on the prevalence of violence and the urgent need to foster safer environments for young people to thrive. Ultimately, the narrative of Adijah and Jeremiah is not just a true crime story, it is a human tragedy that highlights the fragility of life and the enduring power of community in the face of loss. While the pain of their absence will undoubtedly linger, their memories serve as a powerful reminder of the preciousness of youth and the importance of striving for a future where such senseless acts of violence are no longer a reality. Their lives, though tragically short, left an indelible mark on those who knew them and on the wider community that mourned their passing. And if you sense someone is following you or monitoring your movements, trust your guts and seek help immediately. Proceed quickly to any nearby police station, fire department, or busy public location rather than going home or to a secluded area. Ensure your car doors are properly locked while driving and be aware of vehicles that might be following you through multiple turns. For young people involved in conflicts that could escalate, remember that no disagreement is worth your life. Seek mediation through trusted adults, school counselors, or community programs designed to resolve conflicts peacefully. If someone threatens you, take it seriously and report it to authorities immediately, even if you fear being labeled a snitch. Your safety must always come first. For those concerned about youth violence in their communities, numerous resources exist to help. Organizations like the National Youth Violence Prevention Resource Center provide intervention strategies and support for at-risk teens. Local boys and girls clubs offer safe spaces and mentorship programs that have proven effective in reducing youth involvement in violent activities. Parents should explore resources like the Violence Prevention Alliance, which offers guidance on recognizing warning signs of potential violence. Many cities have implemented anonymous tip lines specifically for reporting threats without fear of retaliation. Remember that early intervention is key. Reaching vulnerable youth before they become perpetrators or victims can literally save lives. If the story of Adijah and Lamarion has impacted you, please like this video, share it with someone who needs these safety lessons, and subscribe to LAT True Crime Stories. Your engagement helps us continue bringing awareness to these critical issues and potentially prevent similar tragedies. Together, we can honor their memory by protecting others from senseless violence.